Well, hey there, friends. Rebecca here, the Dragon Librarian from Farmington Community Library. And Lala and I are here today to talk to you about a book that means a lot to us. It's a book we really, really love, and we hope it's going to be something that you will be hyped about to read as well. So it is a little bit of, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about with this book, especially in comparison to some of the author's other works. So let's get into it. The book that I'm talking about right now is Wolfsong by T.J. Klune. So maybe you have heard about T.J. Klune before, or maybe you haven't, but I'm going to talk a little bit about his other works today too, without getting into too many details. But it is important, I think, to talk about this book in comparison to those. So this book in particular is probably so far my favorite thing that he has written. So if you have read his books before and you really like his writing, and you haven't read this one yet, what a treat. But maybe you haven't heard about T.J. Klune at all, and you're like, well, I don't even know what the heck you're talking about at all, Rebecca. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. So this book is his newest book, and I say it like that because it is and it isn't his newest book. So this book just recently came out from Tor Publishing, which is one of the biggest fantasy and science fiction publications, in the world right now. Was just published by them. This is the first book in a 4-book series. The second book is coming out actually in a week or two. The third book is coming out in January, and I don't know that they have a actual release date on the 4th and final book so far. But this is not the first time this book has been out there to be read by people. So this is the original version of the book in paperback that was independently published a few years ago. So this series has been out for a while already. You couldn't really get it everywhere. It wasn't in Barnes and Nobles. It wasn't in a lot of stores. You really had to get it, specifically online. So not a lot of people knew about it. In fact, not a lot of people know about his writing, all of his writing at all, because there's only 3 books so far besides Wolfsong that have been published through Tor. All of his backlog of books have been independently published, so you could only, like I said, find them like online and through very specific places like that. But you might be more familiar with him because he is also the writer of The House in the Cerulean Sea, which came out in 2020. Under the Whispering Door, which was either was in 2021, I'm pretty sure. And In the Lives of Puppets, which is his newer book, came out a couple months ago as well. So all 3 of these books have been traditionally published through Tor Publishing. And he has written a lot of other stuff that has been independently published, but is now slowly also being republished through Tor. So you may have not known that he wrote things outside of these 3 books. And like I said, you might not even know him at all. So why are we talking about this author, right? Well, I want to tell you the first reason why, and that is his books are like a big cup of tea or coffee on a cold winter's day. They're like a big warm hug from a friend. They are just a ray of sunshine when you weren't expecting it. They give you a warm, happy feeling inside. Now, The House in the Cerulean Sea, like I said, was the first one published through Tor. It was the first thing I ever heard about this author. And I read it in April of 2020, right when the pandemic was really, really hitting big. The library was closed. Everybody was so scared. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't do anything. It was just a really scary time. And so many of my friends online were like, this book just came out. You have to read it. It's like a big, big hug. And I was like, well, I could use a hug right now, so I'm going to order it and read it. So I did. And I completely fell in love with this book. This book is all about found family and love and joy and, being a misfit and finding your place in the world. And I say those things because those are themes that continue in all of his books, at least the ones I've read so far, particularly the found family trope. If you are a person that loves that trope, you will probably love everything that T.J. Klune writes. So these books are, I like to think of them as light fantasy, or, they're not really, you don't have to be a big fantasy person to enjoy these books. I feel like these books in particular have a lot of cross-genre appeal. I know people that don't care for fantasy at all really love these books. So I think that is another really good thing, knowing that, if you're not a person like, well, I'm not really somebody that likes to read fantasy, I still think that you will like his books. So what does all of this have to do with his newest book, Wolfsong. Well, this book has a lot of the same similarities as those other books. Found family is a big one, also about love and family and just being a misfit and finding your place in the world. But this one it differs quite a bit from the other ones in that it is more of a paranormal romance, and it focuses a lot more on the romantic aspects of the relationships between the characters than the other books do. So what is this book even about, right? We're talking about these other 3 books, and we haven't even talked about this one, which is what this whole video is for, is this book. So this book is about a boy named Ox who lives in Oregon with his mother and father, and the book starts when he is 12 and his dad leaves. His dad leaves and basically says, you know, I can't do this with you and your mom anymore, I'm done. And then he says some really cruel things to Ox about how he's dumb and how he's always going to people are always going to give him crap because he's not very smart. And Ox wouldn't be considered like a genius by anybody's standards, but he's certainly not dumb. Ox is an amazing person, and he just experiences the world in a little bit of a different way. What's wrong with that, right? So it's just Ox and his mom living together, and they live, like I said, in this small town in Oregon. They live out in the woods, not really close to anybody. Well, one day a new family moves into the house near them, right next door. And Ox meets the youngest member of their family named Joe, who's this 10-year-old boy who like jumps on him as soon as he meets him and says, "Oh my gosh, you smell so good. Who are you? You want to be my friend?" And they bond instantly, these 2 boys, and they become best friends. And Ox is like enveloped into this family, Joe's family, the Bennett family, and just is enveloped into their world, and, you know, enveloped into, you know, their love and their relationship that they have with everybody. And his mom is too. They're very kind to his mother. And then Ox finds out that the Bennetts are actually werewolves. And of course there's all this danger and stuff that goes into that because Joe's dad is the alpha of his pack and also one of the bigger alphas in the whole country. So there's people that are always trying to hurt him in the family. And now with Ox being, you know, so close to them, he might get hurt too, him and his mom. So there's a lot of danger element to this as well. But really, this is just such a slow burn story that takes really long time to tell, which I thought was great because you meet Ox and Joe when they're young, and you just grow up with them, right? Until they become older, and then they fall in love. And it's just absolutely such a beautiful, beautiful story. The dialogue is great. It's quirky. Like I said, if you like the found family trope, you will definitely love this story because it's just sopping with it, and it's just absolutely amazing. But there is one big difference that I want to point out that is in this book that is not in the other 3 books that you may have heard of or may have read before. And that is, in the other 3 books that I talked about, they're pretty chaste. And I don't like to use that word, but really that's what it comes down to. Like, there is definitely a little bit of romance. There's a little bit of a love story in each of them. But nothing ever gets beyond a kiss or a hug or something like that. It's not, you know, anything really explicit at all. This one, however, it goes into that territory. There are definitely a couple sexually explicit scenes in this book, but I don't want you to think that this is like, you know, sex all the time and starting right in the beginning. There's like 1, maybe 2 sexually explicit scenes that happen in this book, and they are not until the very end, at least 300 or 400 pages in. So, you know, it's just, I do want to mention it though, because like I said, if you're used to his other books and you know this one and you're like, oh, it's just like his other stuff. Well, that is a very big difference. But it's well written. The whole thing is well written. And I don't think, you know, unless you're very, very against reading that particularly, maybe you want to stay away from that. But I did just want to let everybody know that is in this book. It is not in the other books. So if you are new to TJ Klune and you haven't read anything by him before, this is a great place to start. It's a great place to learn his writing, to see what he's all about. If you have read his works, don't miss this one because, like I said, I think this is probably my favorite of everything so far that I've read. Like I said, he still has a big backlog that I'm working through, but I really, really love this series. I love werewolves. I love the romance between them. I love misfits finding their place in the world, and this book is just so much that, and it's absolutely perfect. So highly, highly recommend it. Wolfsong by TJ Klune. Well, that's what I've got to talk to you guys about today. I hope that these books sound really awesome and amazing and that you really want to give Wolfsong a try. If so, please feel free to come check it out from Farmington Community Library. And thank you so much for watching, friends. And please give this video a like. Have a wonderful rest of the day.